We have the Galaxy S5 and the iPhone 5S. Hey everyone, I'm Josh Smith with GottaBeMobile.com, and today I want to show you some of the differences between these two devices so that hopefully you can decide which one you want to buy. The Galaxy S5 retails for $199 on a 2-year contract, and the same for the iPhone 5S. But right now we're seeing a deal where you can get the iPhone 5S for $99, and there are a few deals for the Galaxy S5 for $99 on Verizon right now. So you can find some deals on both of these. So don't let price be the biggest determining factor. One of the most standout differences between these two devices is the construction between them. Both of them have a very good build quality. Apple's been known for it, and Samsung has dramatically improved from the Galaxy S3 to the Galaxy S4 to the Galaxy S5. If you're jumping from the S3 to the S5, you're going to notice a much better feel on the back, and the device itself is just more solid in your hands. There's less wiggle and creaking like you might have felt on that older device. So we have a soft touch plastic. This is the shimmery white, which is actually kind of an off-white. The black looks a little bit better in my opinion, so definitely check out those. There's an electric blue and a gold. We haven't seen those in the US just yet. The iPhone is made of aluminum with glass, and it comes in basically a silver. It comes in a black and it comes in a gold. There are some different names, but that's essentially the colors you have there. So you have plastic and you have aluminum. Now, with this plastic back, we can actually take this off, and we have a look at another feature that you get with the Galaxy S5 that you don't get with the iPhone 5S. This small gray thing right here is actually a small kind of like an O-ring that keeps water out of this area. And there's a small plug on the bottom that covers your charging port. And with that, your phone can survive up to 30 minutes in about 3 feet of water. So that means you can drop it in a sink, even the toilet, bathtub, shower, whatever, as long as you're not going real deep with it. You don't go swimming with this phone, but it's going to survive accidents around the house that would put this iPhone out of commission. Now, when we pull this off, we also see a few other things. We can add more memory with a micro SD card, and we can take this battery out and swap in a new battery. There's also small plugs right here that allow different accessories to do things and will allow us to get a wireless charging back so that you can just set this on a stand and charge. The iPhone does not support wireless charging without a bigger case that you would clip onto the back. You seal this in and make sure it's nice and tight, and that's how you get your waterproof seal. So while we're on the back of these devices, we'll take a look at the cameras. So on the Galaxy S5, we have a 16 megapixel camera with very fast autofocus, and we have a cool live HDR mode. And I'm going to overlay 2 examples to show you what that looks like. Basically, it means the phone does some tricks to show you what you're actually shooting when you turn HDR on that you don't get on the iPhone 5S. You kind of have to line it up, take your shot, and then you get to see what your photo looks like. And I'll show you why that's useful if you look at the photos here, and if you head over to GottaBeMobile.com by clicking the link down in the description. Over here we have an 8 megapixel camera and a dual LED flash. I do believe there is some kind of special flash going on here. There's also a pulse reader that you can use to track your pulse. Now, these both take good looking photos, but one of the areas where they differ is in what you're able to do with each of these cameras, with the default camera. So if you look here, we have on the iPhone 5S, we can switch between cameras, so we can see front and rear. We can do the same thing over here on the Galaxy S5. And we can also turn on HDR, HDR Auto, or HDR Live Preview. There's a selective focus mode so that if I need to kind of blur the background on someone, I can turn that on before I take a picture. It'll take pictures at multiple depths, and then I can pick that focus later. It's a little finicky, so that's not a huge selling point for this phone right now. In terms of modes, on the iPhone, you basically have video, slow-mo, photo, square, and panoramic. You're kind of limited. On the Galaxy S5, you can go into modes, and by default, auto will pick the best mode for whatever you have going on. You can do beauty face, and it kind of airbrushes the face to produce a more flattering portrait. Very nice touch. Shot and More will allow you to take photos and then basically show motion, erase someone from the background, stuff like that. We have a basic panorama, which would match up against the panorama here. And then we have a few other things like virtual tour. So you can create a virtual tour of your home. You can use the front and rear cameras at the same time. And so I'm in the picture, and then whatever's in the background is in the picture. And then you can actually download additional camera modes, and these last three are downloaded. Animated photo will essentially show some motion in the photo and keep one thing still. Sports mode to really capture fast moving. And then surround shot lets you kind of do a 360 degree style thing. So let's go back to our auto mode, and when we pop into the settings, there are a lot more settings here. You can turn on face detection. You can switch from 1080p video, which the iPhone 5S also shoots, to Ultra HD or 4K, which is a higher resolution that we're starting to see on some HD TVs. And there's also a few other different options you can choose. So if you want more options, a little bit more control in some areas, in the default camera app, and the reason that I say default camera app and why that's important is because it's the camera app that you access from the lock screen. You can get apps for the iPhone that let you do other things, but you can't, without jailbreaking or some other magic, get to them from your lock screen, which is where I personally take a lot of my photos. So I get access to all these things just with one swipe. So that's a plus. Another major area is the display. We have a 5.1 inch 1080p display over here. So we have 1920 by 1080 resolution. And this display looks really good. It looks better than the iPhone 5S in my opinion. But some people like this smaller form factor. As you can see, this device is smaller. We have a 4-inch display with an 1136 by 640 resolution. Now, the pixels per inch, or the number of pixels that are squished into each individual inch, are higher over here, but it's not to say that it's bad over here. The iPhone 5S and the iPhone 5 kind of set the stage for these high resolution displays or these high pixel count displays. And I don't look at this display and think, oh, I wish I had more pixels, just because this delivers a very nice looking display. You don't see pixels in your photos while you're reading, things like that. Neither do you over here. What I do like about the Galaxy S5 is the display is more vivid, and I can leave this display on full brightness all day, and I don't have to recharge like I do on the iPhone 5S with similar usage. And that's because this display is more power efficient. There's also some different modes that can adapt to what you're doing, viewing photos, watching a movie, etc. And it can get really bright when you're outside so that you can see, and really dim when you're in your bed at night and trying to read without bothering someone else. Again, you can control the brightness on both of these. And if we turn that all the way down, we'll get a look at the difference there. So both of these get really dim here. You can barely see the screen on both of these. And, you know, that's nice, but in my experience while using both at night for a little bit, the iPhone 5S is just still a little bit brighter at night, which is a downside while you're trying to read. Now the Galaxy S5 this year adds a fingerprint scanner in the home button. The iPhone 5S did this in 2013, and I can just touch any of the fingers I have registered. It doesn't really matter how I put them on there. The Galaxy S5, you have to swipe. And so if you're always swiping with your thumb, that's not a big deal. But say you pick up the phone with one hand and you want to use this thumb, I've yet to be able to get this to allow me to swipe sideways, which is really the only feasible way if I'm using the phone one-handed. So I'm not using the fingerprint scanner quite as much on the Galaxy S5. So if that's a big feature that you want, the iPhone 5S is going to be a better choice for you. Another nice feature is an IR port that's built into the top of the Samsung Galaxy S5. We don't have anything like that on the iPhone 5S, and what this allows us to do is control an HDTV using the phone as our remote without the need for any expensive external accessories. As far as software goes, we're running iOS 7.1 on the iPhone 5S, and that gets us a lot of nice features. such as Control Center. We get our Notification Center. Not a huge fan of dismissing notifications. It's just too many taps to do that on the iPhone 5S. On the Galaxy S5, I can just swipe and those notifications are gone. And that brings us to another feature. The Galaxy, or I should say the Gear Fit, will connect to the Samsung Galaxy S5. There are some fitness accessories you can buy, but I haven't found one with a display that looks this nice. Unfortunately, it looks like Samsung's still working out some of the bugs in connectivity, so that's not going to be your main selling point right now. But if you want a fitness tracker that looks just phenomenal and still has a little ways to go in terms of features, definitely stop into a store and look at the Gear Fit anyway. There are various other differences between iOS and Android. Google services work very similar on both, but some things will come to each device first. iPhone tends to get some games first and some apps first. Android will get a few things first, but a lot of times it kind of lags behind on things like a new Trials Frontier game, or sometimes we're seeing services designed first for the iPhone and then coming a few weeks or a few months later to the Galaxy S5 and other Android devices. Thanks for watching. This is our look at the Galaxy S5 versus the iPhone 5S. If you check the description, you'll find a link to more details about each of these devices that we couldn't fit into the video, comparison photos, sample photos, and everything you need to know to make a decision about which smartphone you want to buy here in 2014.